so freaking pissed right now. So I was gone this weekend up in Kansas City. I was visiting my brother and going to a Rant fair and having a grand old jolly time, and it was great. And I got back today. It was a 3 hour drive home. So I spent most of the day, not most of the day, but a good chunk of the day driving. And got home, got unpacked, said hi to my family, doing my own thing. And then my brother dropped this video onto our family chat because we're one of those weird families that has a group chat with everybody in the family and we actually talk to each other. It's crazy, I know. And so he dropped this video in the chat and I pulled it up and it was Ben Shapiro talking about the Hamas attacks on Israel. I didn't even know that that was a thing. I've talked on this show before how I try to stay away from the media just because I feel like it eats away at my soul. And so obviously was completely out of the loop with this. And so I watched the video, absolutely horrendous. Oh my gosh, just like ugh. The fact that people can do those sorts of horrific things to each other is just I don't get it. I've never been able to understand how people can be horrific to people, any people, and it's just. I mean, there are videos by the Hamas taking these videos and showing them off like there's some sort of trophy, and of the women that they've raped and kidnapped and the families that they've slaughtered and the bodies that they've desecrated, the children that they have kidnapped is ugh. So yeah, not happy about that for one thing. Two, the response on both sides of the political aisle has been not great. We on the one hand, we have Democrats calling for a ceasefire and saying we just need peace and love and harmony. Don't fight back. It'll just perpetuate this cycle of violence. Bullcrap. Can you imagine? Could you even imagine what would have happened on 9/11 if, you know, any other country in the world was like, no, well, I mean, it was terrible. That's awful. But like forgiveness and ceasefire and bring it down. Oh, heck no. No, 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 no. Israel has every right to protect itself. This was a unprovoked attack in, of civilians, and I mean brutalized these people is absolutely beyond not being okay. And we think that we have some sort of moral authority to tell Israel to turn the other cheek and just let it happen? No. For one, if you think that's going to happen, you clearly don't know the history of Israel. Go read the Bible. The audacity of this to tell a sovereign nation that they cannot react in their own best interest to protect themselves, their people, their nation, their borders, whatever. The audacity. Three. There has been some, intense things that are said on the Republican side as well. And I'll admit that when I finished the Ben Shapiro video, my initial reaction was to Nikki Haley my way through it and say, finish them, burn them all to the ground. I'm not necessarily against that idea on the whole, other than the fact that obviously not everybody who lives in the Middle East and in Iraq and Palestine and all those places, they're not all Hamas, obviously. However, all of those people all around the world who are celebrating this absolute desecration of human life, y'all are terrorists. I am not ashamed or afraid to say that. You are terrorists if you are supporting this terrorist regime in their terrorist actions and applauding them and saying that they have done a good thing in murdering and raping and pillaging and kidnapping. You're a terrorist and you need to be on a watch, especially if you live in America. One of the things that just irritates me is this idea that so many people were behind Ukraine and saying I stand with Ukraine and down with Russia and all this garbage. And if those people who are saying I stand with Ukraine are not standing with Israel after this monstrous attack, that's hypocrisy. You're a hypocrite if you stand with the Ukraine and you don't stand with Israel. Now, I will be the first to say I wasn't part of the whole stand with Ukraine thing. As far as I'm aware, the United States of America is not in any official agreements with the Ukraine. And I have a problem with this whole idea that the United States is the world's police and it's our job to solve everybody else's problems. Let me just say that a large reason why Israel is in the position it is in is because America feels we have some sort of authority to step in and police other states. Our doing that has given the Iranians the weapons that they need to be able to supply Hamas to be able to do this horrific attack. Okay, that we've been like trying to play the peacemaker, except we've been doing it with the approach of who has the bigger stick, and then we just kind of leave our sticks lying around in the desert when we're done with them. Like, this cost us a couple $1 billion, but who cares? It's not like anybody's going to take it or anything. It's just garbage. It's no big deal. That's absurd. That is absolutely absurd. You leave your big stick lying around, somebody's going to pick it up and they're going to use it to hit somebody, which is exactly what we saw in Israel. Is somebody picking up our big old stick and passing it off to somebody else and saying, here, go find a piñata. The piñata that they found was Israel. Well, congratulations to everybody who feels like Hamas did a good thing, because I can guarantee Israel's about to unleash everything within that piñata and it ain't candy. So, I stand with Israel because, unlike the Ukraine, I know for a fact that the United States of America is an official ally with Israel. And not only is America an official ally with Israel, we're a large reason for why Israel exists as it does in its modern incarnation. Because after World War II, America was too selfish or whatever, I don't know. We decide, everybody is at the United Nations saying, so who's going to take in the Jews? Somebody's got to do it. I'm not going to do it. Well, why don't you do it? We can't support that. We can't feed these people. I know. Let's carve out a portion of land in the middle of all of these countries that hate these people and just plop them down there. That's a good idea. And the very first thing that we do after forcibly creating the state of Israel, which, by the way, historically does belong to the Israelite people who are the modern day Jews. So it's not like we were giving them something that didn't belong to them historically. It's just, in the last several hundred years, I guess, probably since 70 AD or something to that effect. I'm not a historian by any means, but that has been in the hands of other people. We just decided to carve it out and be like, okay, we're going to give this back to you. What right did we have to give it back? And I'm not saying that Israel shouldn't be a sovereign state. Absolutely. I believe that is the homeland of the Jews. But on the flip side, they're also surrounded by people who hate them. Okay, we carved out this piece of land from and pulled it away from people who hate them and gave it to them and said, okay, have fun. And then we left. This will be fine. This will be fine. It's no big deal. And everybody in that vicinity who said, by the way, if y'all do this, we're going to attack Israel the moment it becomes a country, proceeded to, surprise, surprise, attack Israel the moment it became a country. And what did we do? We just sat back and said, "Well, they're a sovereign state now. We can't interfere with that. That's their own business." So, do I believe in the sovereignty of Israel? Absolutely. Do I believe that Israel has every right to exist and protect itself? Absolutely. Do I think that America should go to war for Israel? Not yet. Like I said, as soon as I finished watching the Ben Shapiro video, I was all ready to Nikki Haley this stuff. But if I'm going to stand by my opinion that America needs to stop policing the world, then America can't step in right now with Israel. Not militarily, anyway. But I do think we should be on standby because Israel is an established ally of ours. We have told them that we are with them, that we have their backs. And that means that if this devolves into war, we need to be prepared for that. And one thing that so so kind of what changed my mind was, I mean, sort of, was the interview that Tucker Carlson did with Vivek Ramaswamy. And they were talking about how both America and Israel are sovereign states and they need to take care of themselves. There are problems in America that are real issues that need to be addressed. Our open borders, the drug problem, the fact that for the last 3 years, civilians have felt that they had the right to go around and terrorize other people, either because they didn't, post a black square in their window or because they weren't wearing a mask on their face. And and that stuff was never really addressed. It's still not been addressed, and it needs to be addressed. America needs to take care of America's own snotty nose before we start wiping the noses of other people. But at the same time, Vivek and Tucker were coming at it from a very secular point of view. And I can't do that. One, I'm not a politician, so I don't have to do that. I can spout opinions all day long that have relatively little, support or whatever. I mean, to be fair, politicians do that too, but mine are a bit less, world changing and disastrous if there's, if I go the wrong way. It's just me spouting opinions, and if it happens to be nonsense, it happens to be nonsense, and who cares? I'm a nobody. But the reason why I cannot look at this the same as I would look at the Ukraine, which again, I wasn't all about that. Ukraine and Russia were pretty much mutually attacking each other and goading each other into it, as far as I understand. So, yeah, but there are people who will say that Israel has done the same, but that's not true. Okay, it's not true. If Israel were to say, you know what, we've had enough with this fighting thing. We're just gonna lay down our weapons and we're not gonna do anything else. We're just peace and love and all that jazz. The people like Hamas would roll over the border and wipe them out. But if all of the Arab states all over in the Middle East suddenly said, you know what, we're not about this fighting life thing. Israel, you do you. Let's just live in peace. If that were to happen, then there would be peace in the Middle East because Israel wouldn't do anything to retaliate. They would just be happy that they could live in their own little sovereign life the way they want to live. So it doesn't equate in that way. Israel has spent the last eternity fighting for its right to exist. And everyone from Babylon to Rome to Hamas has been trying to literally wipe them off the map. So the reason why I can't pull back and look at this a bit more objectively is because I am a Christian who believes, honestly, wholly, and completely, that God's chosen people are still the Jews. When God made his covenant with Abraham, that didn't just disappear at some point in history. It it's still there. I know a lot of Christians now who genuinely believe that the Jews are no longer God's chosen people because now he has the Christians. But what they don't stop and really consider is that the original Christians were all Jews. I mean, this isn't it is if we are part of God's chosen people, it's because the Jews initially who became Christians chose to bring us in. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to go to the Gentiles and say, "Hey, we have this good news for you." It was only much later that Christians took on this what we now see as this Christian ideology and completely separated themselves from the Jews. The original Christians were practicing Jews. And Jesus Christ was a practicing Jew. Does that mean that all Christians should be practicing Jewish customs? No, of course it doesn't. But we need to recognize that that's a part of our history. And we need to recognize that God's chosen people are living in God's chosen land right now. And if we turn our backs on them, that is the same as turning our backs on God. So whether you believe that, Israel has done something wrong or has done something to, bring this upon themselves, which is another thing. Like, nobody deserves what Hamas has done. I don't care who you are. That's like when a girl dresses like a whore and goes down to a bar and dances on tables and gets roaring drunk and gets, stumbles out into the alley and some guy, gets his hands on her and decides she's asking for it and rapes her. Is she at fault? Was she asking for it? No, of course not. Israel's not asking for it because they're defending themselves. They're not asking for it because they're setting up barriers. They're not asking for it because they're protecting their borders. Hamas did this because they wanted to. Because they wanted to destroy Israel and wipe it off the map. And that is heinous and disgusting. And saying that Israel needs to be the bigger man, essentially, and turn the other cheek. And let me remind you, even though a lot of Jews consider Jesus Christ to be a great prophet, they don't follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. The teachings of the Jewish history in regards to things like this don't include turning the other cheek. So if you think Israel is just going to lay down and roll over, you've got another thing coming, because that's not going to happen. And they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to. And as Israel's ally, we should not be telling them that they have to. Again, if Israel had come to us after 9/11 and said, "Y'all just need to play nice." Are you kidding me? Look, we may have made some bad decisions when it came to, our retaliation with 9/11. I I was a kid. I don't really remember what exactly went on in the early days of the war. Did we make mistakes? Yes. Were there things that we shouldn't have done? Yes. But we had every right to protect ourselves, and that includes striking back. Israel has every right to protect itself, and that includes striking back. It really does come down to the fact that the Jews are God's chosen people, and Israel is God's chosen land for his chosen people. And if we as Americans do not stand with Israel, then we will fall with Palestine. God will protect Israel. We saw that, in the 1940s. when all of those nations converged on tiny, newly made Israel and tried to wipe them out and failed. God will protect Israel, but He won't protect us if we don't do our part.
Hey guys, thanks for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like, subscribe, and do all those things that you do when you enjoy a video. If you'd like to learn more about us at Moms for America or the Millennial Rant, you can visit our website at millennialrant.com or see us on our Instagram page at millennial_rant. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.